Good morning, fantasy football fans. How's everybody this morning?
Good. We got a little bit of echo, I think.
For me?
Uh-oh.
Yep.
Better?
I don't hear it.
Maybe it was me.
Is that better?
Yeah. I don't hear it now.
Okay.
Fading out on him.
Sorry about that.
All good.
Might have been me.
Doing a special live Wednesday morning edition with Jeff. He has his draft guide he would like to roll out this morning.
Our
Draft guide he would like to roll out this morning. And we're going to talk some rookies also. So you want to go rookies first? Is that what you want to do?
Well, I think the first thing we should really discuss is whether or not the reflection off of my glasses is distracting, because I can go without them if needed.
It's not bothering me.
I mean, it's not distracting, but it's on you. I was going to mention you might. I got the same problem, so I usually turn down the tint on the computer, turn down the brightness.
Well, maybe that's what I could do. All right.
Yeah, if you turn it down about a quarter, then it usually helps.
We can go either way. We can start with rookies. We can go draft.
You kind of got this, you got this vibe going on, like Terminator stuff or something. So you're good.
Cool.
The original
Let's go draft guide then, since that's why we're here this morning.
Sweet. So GridironRatings.com is proud to present our 2021 draft guide. This is our first iteration. It's the first foray into this space. We know there are yes, Jordan, someone did in fact say draft guide. First foray into this space. There's a million of these things out there, right? Everybody's seen a draft guide, a magazine, a cheat sheet, etc. Everyone's got one. Ours is going to be just in the latest, latest iteration of what you've seen everywhere else. The big difference is that we're going full digital. So we know a few other sites do a digital draft guide that is updated throughout the off season and so on. And we found a few things that we're missing. And the number one thing is IDP, right? Nobody really offers a full IDP draft guide that's fully updatable throughout the off season and provides not just IDP write-ups and offensive write-ups and all the digital updates, but clickable links to take you out to external places. So when you want more information on a player, we're going to have a lot of links built in as we do these updates to take you from player A to player A's YouTube video that, Gary shot on a Getting Defensive episode, or a digital dime drop that Gary put out there. Or if Roxanne's out here talking about cornerbacks, it's going to take you right to one of her articles. We're going to be able to get you more data from the draft guide than anywhere else in the industry. We're very, very proud of it. We're really looking forward to sharing this with you. And Jordan, the wide receiver write-ups are fantastic. They're very, very good. The guy who did it is, he's pretty okay. He's a little eccentric, but we like him all the same.
Good kid.
He's pretty all right. We like him. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen, if that's all right with you guys. And We're going to flip through a few pages. We're not going to get too granular, but I'm just going to give you guys a quick breakdown of some of what you can expect. And what I'm really hoping to get is some feedback from the people who are viewing and see if there's some more stuff we can add in or get some questions answered to make sure this is something that people find not only exceptionally useful, but will also provide more context on draft day.
Yep. So hit those chats, folks, wherever you see a chat. You can also do it on Twitter if you're doing it on Twitter, YouTube, whichever. Roxanne's going to monitor those for us.
Roxanne's monitoring.
How does that look, guys? Do I look okay?
It looks great.
Yep. Good.
The cover
going to get.
So cover, we're just going to skip that. Now you'll see how I flipped it open. This is in fact a digital magazine. Everyone loves a draft magazine. Trouble is when you buy one, it was, written and published in, March, and you're looking at it in August. The data's old and no good now. That's where this is going to be different. The data will be continuously updated from the time we launch the week after the NFL draft all the way up until the Thursday night game of week 1. So there will be continuous updates for ADP, player analysis, roster construction ideas, the whole bit. Basic table of contents, give you kind of a glimpse of the layout there. We're going to give you a little bit of a rundown on, hey, what do the ratings mean? Gridiron Ratings has only been around for a little while now, and The ratings are still one of those things that they're not quite a mystery, but they're still kind of a mystery out there. So we give you a real rundown on what it all means, and then some specialty IDP terms you're going to run into in the draft guide. Some different ways to differentiate players based on scoring sets. So IDP, we all know there's a million scoring formats out there. You can't have one draft guide that accounts for everything. So what we attempted to do was create a set of projections and ratings and rankings that position you to be kind of scoring agnostic. When you can go ahead and look at all of it and say, okay, here's how all these players line up. I can fall back on these 4 or 5 little score areas, like a splash score or a pressure rate and things like that. And that can help me identify whether or not these players will be a better fit for my scoring mechanism. This would be a positional introduction page. So we're going to have this spread just like this for every position where we break down the ADPs. And the ADPs are going to be kind of, changing up over the course of the next several days and weeks. So you can take that number on April the 21st here with a grain of salt. But we also break down the position as kind of just a general rule, like, hey, here's what's going on with the quarterback or running back or whatever position this year. And here are some of the players that we expect to be really good. Here's some elite plays, some excellent plays, some good ones, and some guys that are average, kind of the fringy, number one players at their position, QB1, running back 1, etc. We're also going to outline some of the top rookies for your rookie drafts. So we can go ahead and get you a quick analysis on what's happening there. And then a couple guys you should probably be aware of, a sleeper and a landmine. You don't want to overdraft Deshaun Watson this year. It seems like things are getting a little murky for that guy.
Yeah, to say the least.
Yeah, I was trying to be subtle. I just dropped that one right. These are the player breakdowns. There's a lot happening here. So we're only getting 2 players on a page because there's so much information. And in order for it to look good on mobile, we had to make these really big. We had to make it fit so that when you tap this to go full screen on your phone or your tablet, it actually looks the way it's supposed to, and you can read through it easily. Now, we have on the top bar there, you can see overall performance, opportunity, availability. These are all rating scores. How do we grade these players, right? And you'll read more about that in the opening pages of the guide there. We're also going to break down an overview of the player. Who have they been? What have they done for fantasy? What can we expect from them generally? Then value. Are they a value at their ADP? We all know we should wait on quarterbacks, but is it worth it to jump up and grab a guy to make sure you don't get sniped? Do you go take Lamar Jackson in the 2nd or 3rd round? What does that look like? And roster mapping. If you do take this guy in this position, what's your strategy in the subsequent 2 to 3 rounds? How are you going to build out the rest of your team so that you can be championship worthy? Backup plan. Say you got sniped. You were planning on taking Lamar Jackson in the 3rd round or something like that, and the guy right in front of you takes him. Now what? How do you pivot? How do you change that strategy when you're on the clock with 2 minutes to go? Well, good news. Our draft guide has that, and it builds it in for you. And then on the bottom line, we break in a few statistical areas. Z-score, which our guy Jordan Vanek, he has a whole Catching Z's article lineup where he breaks down what Z-score means and how to apply it to fantasy football, specifically DFS. But we found it's actually really useful in terms of roster builds in Dynasty and Redraft also. So we'll break that number down in a different section of the draft guide. And then we have fantasy point mix. So we all hear, oh, this guy's touchdown dependent, or this guy's sack dependent, or this guy's whatever. This right here actually tells you, are they dependent? Are they dependent on one area? So we'll have passing yards, passing touchdowns, rushing yards, rushing touchdowns. And for receivers, it'll be receptions, receiving yards, receiving touchdowns. For defense, it'll be tackles and sacks and interceptions and turnovers. And we'll have it all broken out so you can get a sense of exactly how a player scores his fantasy points year over year. On the right-hand side, we'll go ahead and show off the what they did in 2019, 2020, how we're projecting for 2021 in terms of their passing yards, passing touchdowns, interceptions, rushing yards, rushing touchdowns. This will be applicable to any given position. So we'll have defense would have tackles and sacks and interceptions and forced fumbles, fumble recoveries, etc. And then their fantasy points. How have they done? Have they put up a ton of fantasy points or not? Is this guy trending the right way? Is this somebody you want to have on your roster? And so that's kind of the breakdown of what you can expect on these little player profile cards. At launch, we're expecting to have between 200 and 400 of these in the guide, spread across offense and IDP. Yep. By the end of the 2nd week after the NFL draft, So give me 14 days after the draft. We're going to have a full rookie update available that's going to have all of the fantasy relevant rookies loaded in. We'll have had time to analyze their landing spots. We'll have had time to put in all the projection data and make sure that they're well reviewed, and then they'll be dropped in. By the end of August, we expect to have over 750 players in this draft guide. So even your deepest dynasty leagues, when you're in the dog days of that dynasty startup and it's round 48, and you're getting into this thing and you've got to find your 12th defensive tackle, we're going to have that guy for you.
Yep.
And so
true.
that's the value in the draft guide, and that's where this thing's a little bit different. It gives you a little bit of everything. It's not just the stats. It's not just a little bit of analysis, but it's actually pointing you in a direction to help build your roster out.
Yep.
It's not just a list of top 10s for this top tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 kind of thing. There's in-depth information that has gone into this guide.
Oh, yeah.
For fantasy football.
Right.
Yep. I was severely impressed, Jeff.
Oh.
Your hard work has paid off putting all of our stuff together.
Our hard work.
Yeah,
It's a team effort. This has been a major team effort. Everyone involved has put a ton of blood, sweat, and tears into this thing. We've all just done different work on it. That's all.
Yep. Well, I think my favorite aspect of the whole thing is the fact that it's going to be a fluid situation because it is a digital or it is online or whatever. So, as you don't buy it today or get a membership today, whatever it takes to get this thing, and it's no good in 2 months, about that times OTAs start if we have them this year, so it's always going to be a fluid situation. So by the time that we have preseason coming around, when it's the favorite time for most people to join fantasy football leagues, it's up to date. It's not aged. So that's my favorite thing about this.
I've had the problem of I have live drafts at a bar or at a restaurant or somebody else's house. Say I was doing something before and I forgot it at the house and now I don't have my draft guide, or just I forgot it at the house. I'm on my way and I'm like, oh, damn, I don't have my draft guide.
Yep.
Everybody
carries their phones.
Everybody carries their phone. This is,
yeah.
Where did you just change lights? Your lighting is.
Yeah, my light. I don't know what just happened here.
Okay.
The color tone in here just changed.
Hey,
you're getting red.
We're getting in the mood.
Mood lighting going on here.
Yeah, we start hearing some.
My TV keeps changing.
Okay.
And I think it's impacting my lighting situation here.
Yeah, I keep waiting for some blues to show up in the back. Playing in the background there. Hey man, this is really cool. You guys, look, we promised you last year that we were going to take it to the next step with gridironratings.com. Jeff has made sure that we had, and I really appreciate everybody that supported us last year, and we're going to pay out this year for those that did, and we hope to attract more people. So if you would spread the word, when this thing hits, folks, just do us all a favor and help support gridironratings.com and the work that's going behind it from all of the people that are writers or personalities, whatever they're doing. Follow these people, subscribe at YouTube, and let people know what's at hand here. We would really appreciate it. You can see we're not kidding around, and this is serious business for us. So, and it's a passion for all of us to do this, and I'd really appreciate it if you would just spread the word.
And go subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Yes, indeed.
And when you do this thing, and when you do get a chance to put your hands on this draft guide, digitally or otherwise, when you see something you need or want out of it and it's not there, let us know.
We can.
We'll not be able to do it immediately,
right?
But I'm absolutely looking to make this something that the masses will absolutely love for years to come.
Yep.
So let us know. You can DM me directly at NFL_DiMatteo. DM, the Gridiron Ratings account at Gridiron Rating, or just leave it in the comments on the YouTube channel. We're happy to help.
Yeah.
Yep.
And there's always the chat on gridironratings.com too.
Absolutely.
So it
goes right here.
As he mentioned, right. It goes right to the man. So just keep in mind, folks, this is just a small preview of what is in store in this guide. And we're, what'd you mention? 450? Maybe plus. It depends on how this rolls this year.
To open, I expect to have between 200 and 400 players at launch.
Okay.
And then about 750 when it's all said and done at the end of August.
Nice.
Because we're going to have that many updates through the summer where we're just going to keep piling players in. So, Gary, you've seen the projections, Doc, Roxanne, so have you. When you start scrolling through, I mean, how many linebackers do we actually project for that are on rosters and not? I mean, there's what, 550 linebackers that we have access to. There's probably 700 or 800 defensive linemen. There's probably another 500 or 600 defensive backs. When you think about that many just defensive players, now imagine all the offensive players. We're only taking the top 750. I mean, it's not that many comparatively.
Compared to how many there are. Only 750.
Only 750. It's no big deal.
Right. I've never used one of these things. I've never purchased one of these things. I have seen them around. So I was especially impressed. It's good stuff. I really hope everybody gets the opportunity and checks them out when we release it full go,
I've always used draft guides. I've always bought them. I buy numerous ones throughout the summer, take them every year. I think this tops it all, and I don't know that I'll be buying any more.
Sweet.
I don't think I need a reason.
Sweet. We ready to talk rookies?
Let's go rookies.
Let's do it.
So Micah Parsons, obviously, number one defensive pick going out of Penn State.
Yes, ma'am.
Everybody, can predict the top 32 picks they're going to take him. You know what I mean? You can go find why every team should take him. There's a handful of teams that Gary and I discussed beginning of the summer. I wrote a little bit up on him. Who do you guys think, just the top three teams, and where do you think he'll go?
Well, I want to make sure that everybody understands I am not as prepared to talk about rookies as what Jeff is. As people know, I'm not a rookie guy. I am sticking my toe in there this year. I'm trying to get into it, trying to get behind this, and I will. But I am going to give the floor to Jeff when it comes because I know the man knows what he's talking about. And then I'm just going to maybe, throw a little shit in this game at the end. So, Jeff, take it away, man. You cover these guys like you know them.
Well, I love Micah Parsons. There's some character issues that people are worried about, and that's the big thing everyone's going to talk about. I mean, he's kind of a wild man, and I don't know that I'm worried about the character stuff, but he's definitely marching to the beat of his own drummer. He does everything, though. He can rush the passer. He can cover. He can tackle in space. The only thing I worry about is that I don't feel like he has a good feel for zone read, as he often makes the wrong first step, but his athleticism usually allows him to make up for it. I'd love to see him playing in a place where he's actually got another guy with him. Mm-hmm. I'd love to see him go to the Giants. You've already got Martinez in the middle. Go ahead and put this guy on the weak side. And then when Peppers wants to come down in that, modified base where it's really a nickel and he's a third safety, but, he'd be a great fit there because he can, like I said, come off the edge or he can drop into coverage. He becomes that do everything linebacker. I liken him to a faster version of like Patrick Willis. Maybe not as reliable of a, solo tackler, but he's definitely got that same kind of pedigree where he can do a little bit of everything.
I've seen some, reports, reading, whatever, some comparisons to Isaiah Simmons.
Yeah, and I don't know that that's actually totally fair. And I think and I say that only because Isaiah Simmons was doing everything literally. He was playing corner and safety and linebacker, and he was doing it all. I think Parsons is a true blue linebacker. This guy, he's got prototypical linebacker size. You're talking about a guy that runs, 6'4"-ish. He's about 240 or so 250. He's a big boy. Like, this isn't like a hybrid guy. We're not talking about, 6'4", 220. He's a real linebacker that has unreal athleticism, and he has generally really good instincts, and he's sure tackler, just does it all well. He's that guy. I don't know that he's Devin White. Like, Devin White was a next level prospect when he came out, but this guy is a real linebacker. He can come in, step and make an impact right away. If he went to a team like Cincinnati, he'd be the alpha dog immediately, and he'd lead the team in tackles.
Right. Cincinnati would definitely be a decent, or if they ever start using linebackers like they should be a decent one. I personally don't see anybody going into maybe. I think me and Justin Barnes discuss Sutton out of Alabama possibly going in a top 15 or so. I'm thinking from what I understand. I don't think that there are that many IDP players. I think there's a stronger offensive class. I think we might start seeing somebody like Parsons possibly go in the second half of the first round. I mean, the Jets could definitely use something like that for the future. You're looking at Washington. He might be able to, knock Bostic out of there. And then, Kansas City is a mess at linebacker with Hicks. He's not that good. Willie Gay is okay, but he is unproven. I'm trying to think of a team that the offense is set in that first round. So they would go after somebody like Parsons to secure or help that defense. So, then we would drop possibly into the second round. Early in the second round, the Jets. Miami wouldn't be shocking. Philadelphia is sitting there at 37th. It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see where he goes. There are those, like you mentioned, there are those concerns about character.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it, I've been reading up on that stuff. A lot of it seems like stupid kid stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Calling it what it is. It's mostly going back to his high school days and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how much weight I want to put into that, because if we did, we wouldn't have drafted Randy Moss.
Right. And anybody that is going to draft him, they know these, and we've seen it happen with, many of players. Dallas is famous for doing it, putting somebody on, basically babysitting the young adult until he has his shit together. So anything's possible, and if you're looking, if you're anywhere intelligent, if you're getting handed a lot of money to do something, just do it. And be good, be a pro about it. Don't be stupid about it. So, but either way, who we got next?
Jeremiah Owasu Koromoa.
Good job. That's a hard one to say, and I'm thrilled that you did it. And you did it much faster and smoother than I typically do it. I'm like,
it's official. She is now the name announcer. Continuously on getting defensive, because that is what I hack up the worst.
It is.
Thank you, Roxanne. All right. I'll just sit there and say, I want to talk about, and then let you say the name, and then we'll just roll on through. That was
she crushed it. She got it. Hey, I see our man John June out here. He loves JOK, and he calls him JOK. We were talking about this the other night. Because that name is a mouthful, so we just stick with the initials a lot of times because, well, we don't want to sound stupid. So, but no, phenomenal player, kind of a tweener. And so, we talked about Isaiah Simmons, right? This guy's probably more of that Isaiah Simmons level comp because he's got some skills to be a DB. He's got some skills to be a linebacker. He's still a little bigger. He's too big to be a DB. He's not as big as Parsons. Does a little bit of everything. A lot of Jamal Adams comps out there. You're seeing a lot of the, those kinds of comps. I see a guy that can, he can wrap up in space. He can go ahead and stretch you to the edge if he's out there at linebacker. He can run with a lot of tight ends and running backs downfield. I don't know that I truthfully see the fluidity as a guy that can, say, cover a real slot receiver and actually go downfield and cover somebody and lock a guy out like an Isaiah Simmons would. So he views as a traditional linebacker to me, but I want him to bulk up a little bit. But this is a guy, let me refer to my sheet here. 2-sport athlete. He was a scholarship athlete in 2 sports. So phenomenal. Now, he can go ahead, and in my notes I put super fluid, but I watched him covering, tight ends, running backs, things of the sort. He's got the hips. He can cover all those guys and do what he has to do as a linebacker. Exciting skill set, exceptionally disruptive in the run game. The only thing you need to really worry about is that he doesn't take great angles because he relies on his athleticism quite a bit. Now, a lot of young players don't take great angles. That's just the thing. But he's not a natural linebacker. He's not a natural at DB. That's where kind of my Isaiah Simmons comp starts to come into play. But Butkus Award winner. He was a finalist for the Nagurski, a finalist for the Bednarik, ACC Defensive Player of the Year. This guy's filled the trophy case, right? He's right there. He's done it all. He's one of those like real defensive chess pieces. We talk about chess pieces on offense, guys like Tyreek Hill and those dudes. He can be that guy. I don't know that he can be Jamal Adams, where he's actually lining up at strong safety and making enough plays in that regard. I love him as a sub-package linebacker. I like to see him in limited snaps out of the gate, just to really get his feet on the ground and settle into one position. But no, this guy is a monster. I do love him. I think he's a great player. Phenomenal upside. I think his upside's immeasurable. I look at him and I see a guy that could very easily be a top 5 asset in fantasy just because he can do it all.
Well, I'm personally looking at this. I'm thinking probably a second to third round. And in both those rounds, I wouldn't be surprised if we could see somebody like Denver or the Lions be interested in this guy.
Yeah, and you're saying second, third round in terms of like rookie drafts?
No.
You're
NFL draft.
He'll be a first rounder. He'll be off the board in the first 32.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be it's going to happen. I'll go ahead and plant the flag there. Parsons character issues could push him into the second potentially, but I think that's still a stretch too. But Koromoa is going to be a first rounder. A great team, great fit, for him. I mean, heck, you could damn near put him anywhere, but I'd love to see him in a place like, Pittsburgh. Everyone's talking about a running back to Pittsburgh, but imagine Koromoa running around in the middle of that field. You got TJ Watt coming off the edge still, and Devin Bush is there. That's a terrifying group. Like Bud Dupree. And they like the kid they drafted a couple years ago. Gary, help me out. What was his name?
Say it again.
Ask me again. Pittsburgh drafted a couple of years ago that replaced Bud Dupree.
Bud Dupree.
Highsmith. That's right. Yes. Alex Highsmith.
Yep.
They like him, but if you can put in a difference maker like Koromoa, I think you have to.
Oh.
Yeah, he's a game changer if you get him in the right spot with the right people.
No. I'm still, man, there's a lot of offense out there, man. I just don't know overall, not cracking on any of these players that we're talking about. But I'm concerned if anybody goes in the top 15. Yeah, linebacker, defensive line wise. But hey, there are plenty of teams out there that could use guys like this right now. So if he is what you say he is and what they say he is, then hey, first rounder it is. You can always come back afterwards, man, and say, I told you so, Gary.
Oh, I will.
Plant those flags, man. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I know you will. All right.
Oh, that's good.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so next is Gregory Russo.
Yep. So
Miami.
Yep. Hey, just one quick note here. There's some comments popping through, so I'm trying to reply to the comments as we're going. And like a dummy, I think I'm replying as Gary. So
Uh-oh. Don't mind me, folks. I'm on meds.
Gregory Rousseau. Now, this is a guy where I'd love to see him in Baltimore. He didn't play this past year, 2020.
Right.
2019, though, he was second in the nation in sacks behind one Chase Young. If this guy had come out or was able to come out, in that class last year, he might have been a late first rounder. He's still a guy that could be a mid-late first rounder, could slip to the second because he sat, but I doubt it. Teams are too pressed for pass rushers. Another great fit might be Buffalo. Great first step, comes off the ball in a hurry. 1 year wonder though. When you think about it, he's young. He doesn't have true defensive line strength. I think this guy's a dedicated edge. I would love to see him. Buffalo's one option just because of the coaching, but I love Baltimore. Matt Judon, we talked about it a couple weeks ago. Over the last 2 years, he led the league in uncontested pass rushes. Basically, he comes in, nobody tries to block him. And that's the reason why his QB hits are always so high. That's a reason why his pressure rate is always so high. If no one's in front of him, he can get after the quarterback. Russo's a whole heck of a lot faster. Not as strong, doesn't offer any of the same technique. But if he's going unblocked and he's just flying off the edge like a bullet, that's dangerous. And Big Ben moving around, he's not what he was. You got Burrow coming off of an ACL, and Baker can move, but he's not Lamar Jackson. So if you had that guy coming off the edge in those 6 division games, that's a lot of productivity all of a sudden. Really athletic. He was a high school wide receiver. So you got to love that when you think about, vertical leap and agility and some of those things. But he's probably going to need to put on a little bit of weight and bulk up a little bit once he gets in an NFL weight room and work a little bit on some of these. I want to see him using more bull rush moves, and I want to see him actually bowling over offensive linemen. He's not a guy that's so physically intimidating that he's going to go in and just blow up NFL linemen. He threw around some ACC linemen that, frankly, that they weren't going anywhere anyway. Like, it's not it would be like me throwing around a 7-year-old. It's just not fair. So there's, that's my one big hang up, but this is another guy where fringy first, second round pick. He's going to go early enough. If he lands in Norwich, fingers crossed, you need to go get him in your fantasy draft.
Number 1, please feel free to continue to make me look smart in the chats by replying for me. That's cool with me. And at the same time, so you're thinking the second round. Well, yep, Baltimore is definitely a good landing spot. They need some help after letting Juden go. They have no outside line backers rushing worth a shit. There's a couple of teams in that second round that I'm looking at that if he could possibly slip to. The Raiders could always use help. Miami could always use help. Jacksonville could always use help. So it looks like there's probably a lot of opportunity for him to go in that second, possibly third round.
Now, Jacksonville's got a bunch of draft capital. That's a team that could probably come up and grab him. If he goes into free fall for some reason and he's, say, late in the first, early in the second, and they don't want to use 33 on him, or maybe they do use 33 on him, that might be an interesting fit. But he'd have to have his hand in the dirt there, I think.
Yep.
And that's what'll be interesting because I don't know if he has the necessary bulk and strength to be that guy.
Right.
I profile him a little bit more as that 3-4 like legit pass rusher type guy.
Okay.
Imagine him as I don't want to say poor man's TJ Watt, 'cause he's not as strong as TJ Watt, but he might be just as quick.
Okay.
So there's some of that, and I don't know that he has the.
So you're looking more at the 3-4 schemes than you are the 4-3 schemes.
Absolutely.
I got you.
Yeah, he needs to bulk up a little bit for 3. But Jacksonville, imagine him replacing. They haven't really replaced Yannick Ngakoue, right?
Right.
Him and they no pass rush. Like, they need some help up there. So that's probably it could be a good fit if they bulk him up and work on his bull rush moves.
Gotcha. Good stuff.
Done with him. Jason Owa.
Oweh. Jason Oweh.
Jason Oweh.
So another edge rusher. This guy had no productivity at Penn State, and it was not his fault. This guy's an absolute menace, super athlete. He's coming off the edge like a maniac all the time. The only thing he ran into is he had Micah Parsons coming off the other side a lot of times, and Parsons would beat him to the ball. Oweh's the kind of guy that you can plug in. I don't think he's a Batman pass rusher the way Russo could potentially be. He's definitely more of a Robin. And what I mean by that is if you can put him in a position where there's already a dominant pass rusher, I look at a place like the Chargers where they already have Joey Bosa, and you can put him opposite of Bosa in that kind of Melvin Ingram role. That's a guy where his speed and athleticism is going to keep offensive lines and pass blocking schemes honest, because they're not going to be able to completely shift and, double and chip Bosa and then leave him, unblocked off the other side. They're going to have to play a little more honest. So that's where he's going to come into play. Super fast. We're talking totally, super twitched up guy when it comes to speed, agility, acceleration. He's ready to, play right now. I'd like to see a little bit more technique used in terms of using his hands to swat down blockers. And I want to see him combine pass rush moves a little bit more, but he hasn't had to do that at Penn State because he's just run past everybody.
Right.
And so that athleticism, I don't want to knock a guy for being an athlete. He's a hell of an athlete, but at this level, everybody's a hell of an athlete. And so how do we start tying together a few of those different moves? I want to see him, being able to, not just rip swim, but I want to see him be able to cross that into a spin move. And I want to see him shake an offensive lineman a little bit more, just so he can continually get after the quarterback. But if he's that other guy, put him opposite of Joey Bosa. The Chargers is the one that really stands out to me. Put him opposite of Bosa, and this guy could be a superstar. If he's got to go in and be the alpha dog, I think we might be looking at a couple of years of development, and he's going to be a taxi squad player for you.
Yeah. So we're definitely talking about a 4-3 type player off the edge. Late round dynasty stash is what he sounds like to me.
Yeah, and someone's going to just go name recognition, and somebody in your league's probably going to overdraft him. I'm just going to call it what it is. I like the guy. I really do. I think he's got a tremendous skill set and upside, but I don't love this IDP rookie class like I did last year's. Last year's
Yeah,
draft,
right.
so many players, and in every round, you could go into your dynasty draft or your rookie draft and find gems in all 4 to 6 rounds of your rookie draft last year. This year, I don't know that that's necessarily as true. It's going to be a lot of name recognition at the top, and you're going to have a few of those like would-be sleeper guys fall into the middle. But even those guys you may recognize from college football playoff games and things of the sort. So
another team that's you keep mentioning Chargers, and I agree. We know there's a need there. Minnesota would be interesting.
Oh, yeah, going opposite of Danielle Hunter.
Yep, definitely. And they don't have anybody. Well, they do, but they don't. They could always use somebody. So, cool.
Yeah. Having that other guy to replace the Everson Griffin role, I think, would be pretty clutch for them also.
Right.
Okay. And then your last guy, and this is a sleeper, is what I'm being told, sleeper-ish, Dylan Moses out of Alabama.
Sleeper-ish, and I'm saying ish because what's a sleeper anymore, right? Everybody knows about every player.
Right.
Sleepers don't really exist anymore. Dylan Moses was a highly regarded player out of Alabama for a long time. He just seemed to have fallen down draft boards because of injuries and some of that kind of thing. He doesn't have a ton of strength, and he's a little grabby in coverage. He does need to clean up some technique stuff. He's not ready for prime time right now, but this is a guy who has insane reaction time. When we talk about players that are twitched up, right, and they react immediately, they're super fast and they're strong and they turn speed to power very quickly. That's what Dylan Moses can do. Now, I look at this guy as being hyper disruptive. He may not be out there getting 150 tackles, but he's out there causing tackles to happen. He's out there swatting passes. He's in a position around the football consistently enough that he looks like a guy that could get you some productivity for fantasy. I'm not saying he's your linebacker one. I'm not saying he's Devin White or even a Devin Bush. What I am saying is that he looks a lot like a guy that Gary liked for a while, Camu Grugier-Hill.
Oh, no. Of course, you're going to, out of all the damn tips that I give, dive drops, this is the one you bring up.
Here's the thing. The thing with these two guys is that they're very, very fast and they can get around the football. Now, I blame scheme on Grugier-Hill's inability to really produce. I feel like he's put in bad spots and all of that. Dylan Moses is a guy that if he can come in and be, we talk about being the other guy, right? If he has to come in and start at middle linebacker, look at like Cincinnati, for example, he's going to fail. He's not ready. He has a lot of things he has to clean up technically, but the athleticism is there, and I think the instincts are there. But we need to get his technique figured out, his footwork figured out. He needs to better understand how to read certain plays and how to read certain concepts, just so he can be in the right place at the right time. I'm worried about covering running backs one-on-one out of the backfield. I don't know if he does that as well as he should, considering his athleticism.
Right.
So, like I said, gets a little grabby, draws some penalties. If he can sit behind another guy for a year or two, that might be really beneficial. I'm going to be drafting Moses late wherever I can, and I'm going to stick him on my taxi squad for a year, potentially 2, and let him sit. And in some of my leagues, I do contract and salary cap. So when my other linebackers are ready to go away because I can't afford them anymore, the hope is that in year 3, year 4, year 5, this is the guy we're talking about as being fantasy relevant, and now we're plugging him in when I've lost some of these other players.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was getting ready to add was from your description. Grugier-Hill was a Belichick reach originally. I think he actually drafted him like the 6th or 7th round. But this guy kind of sounds like that last round, possibly one of the first free agents to be signed in the real NFL. So it'd be a good stash, and hopefully this is somebody that I can keep in mind to do an IDP dime drop in a couple of years. It sounds like he's more of a player that could go behind somebody. Shoot, Tampa Bay, somebody like that that's set for this year, set for the next couple of years at linebacker. But, we all know like Levante David's getting old. So eventually he is going to step down. So it sounds like kind of one of those scenarios. So good taxi squad stash, dynasty stash.
Yeah, the Saints are another one behind DeMario Davis.
Yeah.
Let him roll a little bit. There's a few of those places where they've got a 28, 29, 30-year-old linebacker and he can plug in because he could easily hop in and, if he bulks up just a little bit, works on his strength in an NFL weight room, gets gets right that way, he can play the weak side because you can leave him solo. He's fast enough to get sideline to sideline. And, and I feel like he's a reliable enough tackler that you can leave him out there. So, yeah, I think either of those spots would be great. I would expect an NFL team to hop on him in the 4th or 5th round, just because of the name recognition, the Alabama program, and he was such a highly regarded recruit coming out of high school. The pedigree is too good. And I think if they remove the injuries and some of that we would have seen more development from him. And so I think a coach will hop in there and take a risk on the athleticism in the middle
of the pedigree, huh?
Absolutely. Well, that's the point in the draft where you're drafting upside, right? So you're looking at a guy, it's like, look, I'm taking a guy here. Can he be a starter in 2 years? Okay, cool, let's grab him. And you don't get enough of that in the 4th or 5th round. So
I'm glad you brought that up.
Great information.
Yep.
That's the end of the list that I got. Do you have any other people you want to talk about now?
So Micah Parsons is my favorite player in this draft, but for IDP, right?
Right.
My second favorite player is a guy we didn't talk about. He's going defensive back here, and that's Trayvon Moehrig out of TCU.
Say it again.
Trayvon Moehrig out of TCU.
One more time, make it 3.
Trayvon Moehrig
out of TCU.
Oh, damn it. I could never do that. Never have done that. Go ahead.
So this is the Thorpe Award winner, best defensive back in college football. I see a guy that can cover exceptionally well when he's playing in center field in space on his own. He high points the ball very well, and he hits like a friggin' truck. This guy is one of those players that can be an asset. I see kind of a cross between like a Jesse Bates and Jeremy Chin kind of IDP weapon. He's going to end up being a 2nd-round pick, I think. And I'm guessing, right? Like we're all guessing at this point. We're 8 days away now. Super fluid hips, great ball skills. 6'1", 202. He's got reasonable enough size that he can play the position in terms of free or strong. He can step into the box as a sub-package backer with the way he tackles. I absolutely love this kid. He's got me every time I watch his tape. I just get so excited because at any point in time, he can come down and lower the boom, or he can go ahead and he can track down a pass out in center field. And you didn't think he was going to get there. Next thing you know, it's tipped away, or he's making a play high point in the ball and taking it away. So phenomenal player. I absolutely love this guy. He's going to be that defensive back in this draft class. He's not Sean Taylor special, for those of you that are old enough to remember Sean Taylor, but or Ed Reed special even. But he's a guy where we're going to draft him this year, and in 2 to 3 years, we'll be looking at him as a potential DB1 in any IDP format. He's going to get you enough tackles, and he's going to get you enough splash plays to make it worth it in any kind of scoring format.
So you did mention you're thinking 2nd round?
I think he's going to be a 2nd-round pick in the NFL draft, and it'll be early 2nd. The highest I could see him going is to the Raiders, just because of the struggles they've had with keeping Abram healthy, and the other safety's been kind of a revolving door. And so I could certainly see him going to a place like Vegas, and they're known for overdrafting on DBs. So he could go there, but I think more realistically, somewhere between 28 and 45 is probably a good window for him. And personally, I would, as a 49ers fan, I would love it if they would trade up and go get him, because I'm always so uneasy about our secondary.
Right. Yeah, there's actually Bears, Atlanta. There's quite a few teams out there that could use somebody by the sounds of that. So it'll be interesting to see where he falls.
Absolutely.
Yep. Good stuff, Jeff. Appreciate it.
Check in the comments to make sure nobody has any questions real quick before we start.
Right.
I don't see anything. I was trying to hit them as they were coming in.
Yeah, I've been watching my notifications on Twitter. I ain't got anything at the moment. Well, Jeff, we really appreciate you coming on today. Originally, you were going to be on Friday. We had a schedule change. We hope that you guys catch us on Friday, and I'm going to say goodbye and let Roxanne do her thing.
Thank you for joining us. I would like you all to go check out the preview somehow of this draft guide, see what Jeff has in store for everybody. Is there a way to check it out or no?
Yeah,
I don't have a live preview set up for people just yet. I'm actually doing a lot of work on the guide today. I took the day off to go ahead and grind a little bit on it.
Well, it's at the beginning of this. There's a huge everybody. So go watch that. That's going to be real special when that hits. It's going to change the game of drafting fantasy football players and how we do it, I think.
Sweet.
Oh, side note, congratulations to our girl Roxanne here. She got invited to Scott Fishbowl 11. It's pretty
did.
awesome.
Yay.
That's right.
Yay.
So pretty excited for you.
Than I did last year.
Yeah.
I'm going to be smarter. I know that.
Yeah. Well, it's exciting stuff.
Went to the quarter and the semifinal in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And so I need to get in again so I can push to the final and make a play here. But no, I love the Fishbowl. I love what it's all about. You know, if you're around and you're listening, you know, Fantasy Cares is a great charity. If you haven't entered the Scott Fishbowl, scottfishbowl.com, I think is the website. You can sign up and, enter the random draw to get in there.
Right.
But fantastic
And
stuff.
I'm just trying to get in for the first time. I have never filled out the application. I know it's a great charity, folks, so don't take me wrong that I haven't. I have been doing my own grind for the last few years. I am knocking on that door, Scott Fish. Please let me in. So, all right.
All right.
Well, if we're done, we're going to say goodbye, and I'm going to close it out with a view of our image.
Be excellent to each other.
Have a good rest of your week, everybody.
Oh no, it's saying my comments were filtered for possibly being spam.